Yeah, what is up? Welcome back to Kill Rock Radio here on killrockradio.com. My name is Rocky. I am back up in this motherfucker walking wounded. I got that motherfucking Rona finally. I had been Gold Star up to this point. I had never caught the shit for fucking years. I made it. Some dirty motherfucker done gave me the Corona. Of course, it's different for everybody, but for me, I got the whole fucking deal. I couldn't taste shit. I couldn't smell shit. The throat, the cough, the snotty, I even was like shitting my guts out. It's too much information for you guys. Point is, I've been sick and I'm fighting through it just for y'all. So you're welcome. On this episode of Kill Rock Radio, huge news in the metal world as Jay Weinberg has been apparently fired from Slipknot. We will get into that. Also, Sharon Osbourne and her family started talking a little bit about what went wrong and why the Ozzfest had to stop. We'll get into that. The Beatles have a new song out. I'm going to check that out. I'm not going to react like live or anything because I love the Beatles too goddamn much. I'm just going to sit there silently and listen, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. We got listener comments, so very full show. We will get started with the Slipknot thing, though. This is a really fucking wild thing because, of course, anybody who knows Slipknot, they've been around since like pretty much the turn of the century, 99, 2000. They've released multiple classic metal albums, and people often talk about, who's the next Metallica. And in a lot of ways, I don't think that band even is out there right now. Who knows when they're going to show up. But the closest thing we have to that is a Slipknot. Slipknot is one of the only bands I can think of that has done the same thing that Metallica has, in the sense that they've had mainstream hit songs. They've transcended generations. You see people that were Slipknot fans, they've grown up, they're adults, they have children, their children love Slipknot. And people are really serious about Slipknot. And over the past few years, there has been this growing feeling amongst the Slipknot fan base that Corey Taylor, lead vocalist, and Shawn Crahan, also known as Clown, he's a percussionist and obviously one of the founding members of the group, that those two pretty much run the band and everyone else is just a fucking employee at this point.
In this big game that we play, life, it's not what you hope for, it's not what you deserve, it's what you take.
Now, let me get into the statement first. This blew up on November 5th when Slipknot dropped this on their socials. We would like to thank Jay Weinberg for his dedication and passion over the past 10 years. No one can ever replace Joey Jordison's original sound, style, or energy, but Jay honored Joey's parts and contributed to the last 3 albums, and we, the band, and the fans appreciate it. But as ever, Slipknot is intent on evolving. The band has decided to make a creative decision and to part ways with Jay. We wish Jay all the best and are very excited for what the future holds. Just my initial take on the statement itself. To me, this comes off like this is a really shitty way to publicly fire a guy who's given you 10 fucking years. For a little context, for those of you who don't know, Jay Weinberg is a lifelong Slipknot fan. His dad, Max, was drummer for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. So Jay was able to go to all the shows. He was able to have all the best equipment, all the best training, all that shit. And sure enough, Lil Jay Weinberg grows up and gets to be the fucking drummer for Slipknot. It's a tremendous feel-good story. It backs up this narrative that, Slipknot's a family. So they find Jay from within their own fan base and all that shit. He gives them 10 years, great run. And then to be sort of like unceremoniously given this fuck you statement, because that's the way I take it. If you listen to it, they make a point to say, man, Joey Jordison was great and no one can replace him. But this guy, he played his parts. Then on top of it, they talk about wanting to evolve. So what that tells me is that Jay Weinberg is a Joey Jordison wannabe And we want our sound to evolve. And that's impossible because fucking Jay Weinberg is a Joey Jordison cosplayer. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I get from this statement. A lot of people must have felt it was harsh as well, because by the end of the day, they had taken the fucking post down. They must have gotten a huge blowback about it. I wanted to see what the fan base thought, the pulse of the maggots, if you will. So I went to where the maggots are. I went to Reddit, the Slipknot Reddit, and I wanted to see what those people had to say. So my boy Palm Terrace says it's a paycheck party for Corey and Clown. They're the Gene and Paul of the modern day. Both these dudes are so full of themselves in interviews, I'm convinced it's only a matter of time before one of them is caught on camera huffing their own farts, South Park style. Now, you refer to Gene and Paul, he's talking about Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of Kiss, who famously have an iron grip on that band, and the other spots are pretty much filled as per their whims. And so people have started to say that that's kind of what's going on with Corey and Clown. There's been statements for years where they've talked about, you know, they could even see a world where there's no original members. And some people have said that they're just setting this up to eventually put Corey and Clown's kids, who have their own band right now called Vended. And they're very good. I've seen them live. Great live presence. You can tell they grew up watching their dads, because Corey's kid works a little fucking shitty room like it's an arena, you know? So a lot of people feel the plan is to eventually plug those two into Corey and Clown spots, and everyone else is essentially just hireable and fireable, just like Jay Weinberg was in this situation. Next, my boy Sinister V says, I swear to God, the second Corey hit his mid to late 30s, he became the most insufferable douchebag that can rival Gene Simmons with how much shit he talks out of his ass. Once again, the name Gene Simmons coming up. This is clearly something that the fan base feels. God knows Corey Taylor is inescapable. If you're somebody who like looks up, heavy metal news and shit like that on the internet, it's a running joke. But what does Corey Taylor think? You know what I'm saying? That's the running meme, is that people always go to him. He's always got an opinion. But I know recently he's made public statements about how they don't make that much money. Some people feel that they're just trying to get the whole rest of the band to be paid guys so they can take the lion's share of the cash. Along that line, my homie Popular Staff says greed. Greed is what's going on. I love Slipknot, but Corey and Clown know their performing days are numbered at this point due to the condition of their bodies, so they're trying to make as much money for themselves as possible before it all ends. And he also refers to Corey recently saying in an interview that they don't make that much money. Next, Jwisher says, yeah, I'm done. The last two departures I defended as they were important to the band, but not necessarily the core of their sound, and I could see there being issues if there were creative differences. Jay, however, along with the drums overall, are the core of Slipknot, just as vital as the vocals and more vital than even the guitars. Jay also has never been a source of issues or drama as far as I know, and is nothing but a positive presence in an otherwise drama-inducing band. This is absolute bullshit.
They smell like a pile of bullshit!
Slipknot, more than really almost any metal band I can think of, their drum sound is so important to their overall sound. Joey Jordison and the way his drums triggered, it was a very stylistically singular sound to Joey. So having Jay Weinberg, a guy who grew up with Joey Jordison as his god, who could come in and do something similar and had something that sounded similar, it really, as this guy says, is at the core of the Slipknot sound. So to change the Slipknot drum sound is to change the entire complexion of what Slipknot sounds like. Slipknot guitarist James Root came out on his X account and said, if doing this stuff we do was easy, then everyone could do it. And it's not just writing / playing live or being creative. There's psychology and interpersonal relationships and any other number of things that can be good and exciting or devastating. We've been through a lot, and no one could ever understand without walking a mile in our shoes. Have a rad day. I'm going to go play some COD and tune out, which, you know, fair enough. That nobody knows what's going on within the group. A lot of people have said, oh, Jay Weinberg was obviously a positive influence. Who fucking knows? Maybe Jay Weinberg was shitting in people's bags. I don't fucking know. Anything could be going on. So, you know, keep that in mind. Which leads to the obvious question, who is going to be the next drummer of Slipknot? I know people have initially jumped up and said that Clown's kid, he plays in Vended as well. I believe his name is Simon. They're saying that he could be the next drummer for Slipknot. I don't know how that would go over. Would that be a shitty move to take your son's band's drummer? Is that cool? I don't fucking know. If they hire that kid, then it really is going to start to look like shit. It's going to look like they're trying to turn this into almost like what Van Halen was doing at the end when they brought in Wolfgang. Not to say Wolfgang is not a very talented dude, but it's clear the Van Halens were trying to just stack the entire band with just their fucking people. I think it would look a little fucked up. Corey Taylor plays in several other bands, Stone Sour. He's got his own like specific, I believe it's called CMFT. I think there's a different drummer there. So I guess you could go to some of those guys. But if you're looking to change stylistically, are these not parallel moves really? I would say go get somebody like that's completely fucking out there doing like crazy experimental shit. I don't know who that person is. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be obviously developing. Will they have auditions? That'd be huge, man. Now that Corey and Clown, people are saying they're big sellouts and all that shit, I would love to see, could this be their opportunity to do whatever like the Slipknot version is of the Metallica classic documentary, Some Kind of Monster? If you look at it age-wise, it's very similar, very crossroads for the band sort of moment. This might be a good opportunity if you're Corey Taylor to bring in the camera crew, record the whole fucking thing so I can see it later. Thank you very much. We will keep you up to date on anything that's going on in terms of the auditions, any announcements as far as replacements or any shit like that. And yeah, we'll keep you updated. So anyways, moving on. Next, we got a little bit of Osbourne's news. They have a really good podcast. I don't know like where it originates from. I know I've watched it on YouTube, and I'm sure it's everywhere. But it's Kelly and Jack and Sharon and Ozzy, and they're just shooting the shit about various stuff. But I will say the Osbournes have always been known for being just like fucking 100% everything out on Front Street. And that is the case with their podcast. They say a lot of wild ass shit. I would definitely give it a thumbs up and say it's worth checking out. They were talking about something that was really interesting to me. Sharon Osbourne, and this made news in various outlets, she was talking about why the Ozzfest came to an end. And she says really at the end of the day, it came down to greed. In fact, here's a clip from their podcast.
It was a very weird beast because all the bands were our mates, but the managers were greedy. And for some reason, they thought that we were making billions on it. And we weren't. We made a profit, but it was not like we couldn't retire on it. And managers and agents wanted more and more and more. And it just wasn't cost effective anymore.
So is that ultimately why Ozzfest?
We stopped. Yeah, because it just wasn't cost effective.
Your mother used to be she's on the phone a lot now. But when that was going down, it was fucking insane.
I mean, years and years ago, one of the bands, it was the second Ozzfest we did, or the third, wouldn't go on stage until I agreed to give them $10,000 more. And they were holding everything up. And I said, of course, I'll give it you.
What band? Say it.
Say it. Come on.
Danzig. And then...
Why are you going to protect that twat?
And then I didn't give them the money. They went on, played, and I went, fuck you.
So the Ozzfest had a really nice run. I think it went like 96, 97, something like that. Here, let me look it up. It's, 1996, through 2018. So over a 20-year run of just being like the classic summer metal tour to go check out. I know Sharon had said that the whole concept of Ozzfest was based on Lollapalooza. People know it now as like a yearly festival, but back in the day, it was a running yearly show that would go town to town.
A wild new alternative rock tour kicked off in Phoenix, Arizona on Thursday night. It's a multi-act package called the Lollapalooza Tour, and it features Jane's Addiction, along with such opening acts as Living Colour, Ice-T, Susie and the Banshees, and the Butthole Surfers.
Right. It's 109 degrees and the excitement is running high here at the opening date of Lollapalooza, a traveling carnival of music, information and art.
Alternative, but it seems like maybe people are so bored with the mainstream. Maybe its time has come, you know.
And so it was sort of going to be the metal version of that because it tended to be alternative acts, just really eclectic. If you were lucky, there'd be 2 or 3 metal bands on the show. So this was going to be the alternative for people who love metal. And that first year, it was a big show. There was Ozzy, Slayer, Danzig, Biohazard, Sepultura, Fear Factory, Neurosis, and Narcotic Gypsy. And on the second stage, you had up-and-comers like Earth Crisis, Powerman 5000, Coal Chamber, Cellophane. The show itself would sell out, but they would also release yearly Ozzfest live CDs as well as live DVDs. There was a lot of money that was getting pumped out on a yearly basis from the Ozzfest. I would put the Ozzfest up against pretty much any show in regards to breaking new music. So many bands came out of the Ozzfest. The first time I ever heard of Incubus, I remember one year I was at Ozzfest and this one dude runs up. He's like, dude, there's this band. They're about to take the stage. Everybody's talking about these guys. They're going to be the next big thing. The guy's like, oh shit, what's up? What's the deal with them? Said, dude, it's this band called Disturbed. And that was the first time I had ever seen Disturbed. If you look at the second stage, you know, Slipknot, once again, Coal Chamber, Powerman 5000, Static X, Kitty, Mudvayne. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. So many bands were made by that second stage at Ozzfest. Heavy metal music misses Ozzfest really, really badly because heavy metal fans, they don't ever give up the shit they love. You know, that's something that makes us different than, fans of hip hop or pop music, in which case you're always looking for the new hot shit. Whereas fans of heavy metal and rock music, we love the shit we love and we follow you into the grave. We continue to haunt you after the grave if we can. So with the bands like Ozzy, Slayer, Pantera, those would draw the fans. But now you get to expose those fans to all this different shit. I remember one year Phil Anselmo of Pantera coming out and saying, dude, big shout out to Slipknot. If you didn't see those guys, you got to check them out. They are what a metal band should fucking be. And it's like, oh shit, you know, that really means something. As I said, we fall in love with the bands. We take them in as family and we take their word and we hold it in high regard. So if Phil Anselmo says, man, this band is what it's all about, we come at you with fucking respect. We search you out and we speak your name, motherfucker. That's how it's been. And without Ozzfest, there's a vacuum there and there's a disconnect. There's a really clear and present disconnect between the old standard bands, the bands like a Slipknot that are always going to bring in crowds, and the young bands that are trying to make their name. That void has not been filled since. So we can blame dickheads like Danzig. Danzig, well-known asshole his entire life. Nobody has anything good to say about Danzig that doesn't involve his music. Danzig has made some great fucking music. He is a vile human being by all accounts. So we can thank him. Thanks, Danzig, for fucking everything up, you piece of shit. Man, you should listen to the other story she tells. At the end of that story, she starts talking about a part of why Danzig got kicked off the show is because they were taking pictures of their dicks in young women's mouths But that's the story for the Osbournes to tell. Go check out their podcast. They got a good one. So anyways, moving on. So I was on the fence as to whether I was going to, I guess, react or review the new Beatles song entitled Now and Then. But I just went and I watched the video. I fucking cried, dude. Like, fucking, and listen, totally okay to cry. I have no issue with crying. I am notoriously dead inside. Like, I don't, it happens rarely. Somebody has to die normally. But I have found that as I'm getting older and older, it is easier and easier to make me cry. This goddamn Beatles video, they did that shit on purpose, and sure enough, they made me cry. This song was really the best of the sort of posthumous Beatles tracks. By that, I mean, back in the 90s, they released the Anthology series, which was an amazing series. That's really what got me into the Beatles. My mom and dad gladly got me the Beatles Anthology CDs because they were very concerned about the other shit that I was listening to. So they got me the Beatles Anthology, great series. And they had, quote unquote, new Beatles songs, which were Free as a Bird, Real Love. Both were decent attempts for the time. Free as a Bird was a pretty good song, but you could tell in the quality of John's vocal in both cases, they were taken from demos, like really low quality demos. And they did all they could with them. And like Free as a Bird has a great George Harrison solo. And Paul was still very, very capable at that time. And so, really solid attempts. There was a third demo that Yoko had handed over to the guys, and it was this one. It was Now and Then, but it was so low quality they couldn't separate John's voice from the piano that he was playing, and he would play these little shitty pianos. So what they did is they composed this song. George, Paul, and Ringo recorded their parts in the moment, and they were just going to kind of hold it until technology allowed the song to be made. Sure enough, you fast forward into the next century, and via AI, they were able to take John's vocal, separate it, and really not only separate it from the piano, but this is the fullest and most complete vocal of the three songs, like by far. This sounds really good. And all the orchestral composition, which of course, it's not even out of place with the Beatles. The Beatles were OGs when it came to incorporating the orchestra. But god dog, man, this video, if you're anybody who gives a fuck about the Beatles, it's going to make you cry. But also, at a certain point, this is going to happen to every fucking last one of you. Guaranteed. Get ready. Those of you who are, under 35. But fucking at some point, you cross this tipping point where you've seen so much shit and you have so much stuff that's happened that, like, god damn, when you really sit around and think about it, it's kind of too heavy to hold in a lot of ways. Something I always tell, like, really young motherfuckers is like, dude, nothing's gonna go the way you think. And that's not me saying it's going to be bad, it's going to be good. When you say the person who was like, oh, they're most likely to succeed, or, Bobby and Janie, they're going to be together forever, all that sort of shit. None of that is going to happen. None of the shit is going to go the way you thought it was going to go. I could have never, ever, ever in my most wicked fucking mushroom LSD haze, I could have never guessed that things were going to go the way they went. If I could go back in time and tell, 13, 14-year-old me how shit actually went, I'd say, get the fuck out of here, you rascal, and fuck off Back to the Future. But yeah, so when things happen that force you to think about it all, sometimes it does become too fucking heavy to hold. And in this case, that was true. I had tears streaming down my face. So good job, Beatles. You fucking did it. You made me cry. The song itself was a really solid song, especially coming from dudes that are at this point in their fucking 80s. And, well, 2 of them are in their 80s. 2 are in the motherfucking ground. R.I.P. John Lennon. R.I.P. George Harrison. God damn. I've only heard it literally one time, but on first blush, if I had to grade it out of 10, I mean, look, a Beatles 10, that's a high ceiling to hit. So if we're talking about a Beatles 10, this is like a 6. Could I see this on an actual Beatles album? No, but in a weird multiverse where John Lennon lives, could I see them getting back together and making a song like this? Sure. I mean, lyrically, it's so fucking sad because John's dead. George is dead. You see fucking Paul and Ringo as just these little sweet old men. And the lyrics are very like, man, I fucking miss you. And you think about people in your life who you've lost. I mean, I think this just came out on Dia de los Muertos, didn't it? If so, that's a brilliant move by the Beatles. And I do take part in that shit. I fucking light a candle. I think about the people that I've lost and how lucky I am to have had them in my life, and just fucking shout out to them on the other side. And this lyrically was kind of that idea, it's thinking about people that you used to know and you miss them. And yeah, God damn you Beatles, you motherfuckers made me cry. Anyways, moving on, I'm going to go ahead and get into the listener comments. info@killrockradio.com is where you would send your emails, or you can get up in our DMs on our social media, and we'll get right back to you in some way, shape, or form. So now, getting into it. First, thank you guys. I got a lot of happy Halloween wishes. Thank you all very much. I did have a fun Halloween. I'd gone out and checked out a comedy show, but then on the way back, I drove through Montrose. Houston has a great pub crawl for Halloween. The Montrose pub crawl. Made a point to watch several scary movies. I watched like 2 Nightmare on Elm Street movies, a couple of Halloweens. I was going to check out that Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but everybody told me it was boring. I didn't check it out. I don't know. So I definitely observed to the best of my abilities. So anyways, thank you guys very much for all of that. First off, my homie Ace Shroud says Typo Negative is the best for Halloween. Absolutely, dude. Typo Negative. You could just play nothing but Typo Negative, and it's going to be a total fucking vibe. So several people made fun that I said vibe so much, but when you're talking about a band like Typo Negative, that's a big thing, is the vibe, man. And for a Halloween party, dude, anyone who was around back in the day when Typo Negative, like in their heyday, obviously when Peter Steele was around, those fucking fans, if you would go to a Typo Negative show, it was like 80% just like insanely hot women. And you'd see all the women dancing, and you'd see all the guys and all the metalheads in the corner kind of like not knowing what the fuck to do, because most metal shows are a sausage fest. You've got like chicks in like corsets, sexy dancing in what should be the mosh pit. You don't know what the fuck to do with yourself. But yeah, Typo Negative. Absolutely fantastic Halloween band. Several people shouted out their bands for Halloween music. You can check out our channel for that. In regards to our thing about the bands that were the future of rock and metal, my homeboy Million says Bandmade is the future of rock. I have literally only seen one Bandmade video ever, so I've only heard one song from them. I'm more of a baby metal guy myself. Next, my homie Paul Moore says, so I will argue that the best band not only now, but moving forward, because they are legends and still spit some of the very best music, is Deftones. Most of the new bands are shit. Deftones still bring it, and their shit is as good as anything coming out and fits in with the times. The Deftones, very quietly, are one of the absolute greatest bands to ever come out of the new metal scene. I mean, who has been more influential than the Deftones? Who's had a greater longevity? Because the Deftones right now are releasing very relevant music. Their discography is running deep, deep, deep. So deep, put that ass to sleep with hits. You know, if they had just made White Pony and maybe like Around the Fur, they're already legends. But every fucking album since then, there's always something gorgeous to be had and to be found and experienced on a Deftones album. I absolutely agree in the sense that the Deftones are going to continue making albums, and I expect them to continue to be great until they give me a reason to feel like they fell off. But man, you look at their career arc, who has been greater for longer than the Deftones? Big ups to Chino and the boys. Next, my Big J Joe, he says, Sweet Baby Golden Balls. OMG, he musta tucked. You know, it's so funny. When I read this, I did LOL because it did not even occur to me. Some people like that move. You know, sometimes you do like when you're younger, you do a dude sleepover. Somebody does the gimmick where they pull the dick and put it all up in between their legs, Buffalo Bill style, if you know what I'm saying. And it makes me happy to think about Sweet Baby Golden Balls carefully making that decision, because really that outfit is so tight. That's a decision you have to make. Am I going to point my dick up or am I going to tuck? It makes me think that Sweet Baby Golden Balls may in fact be a little insecure about the size of his deal there. Don't worry about it, baby balls. When you're wearing something so tight, it's gonna crush your dick and balls. What you need to do is probably, I know gentlemen don't stuff, but if you're going to wear shit like that, either you got to have like a real wad of dick and balls, or you're going to have to stuff. Otherwise, you're going to look a little silly like you do in this situation. My boy Humorous, who says the new Bad Wolves vocalist gets more cringy every time I see him, LOL. Man, I hadn't really listened to any of the new Bad Wolves. Like they released one song with that new vocalist, like their initial song that they released. I might have heard that one, but I had not heard shit else till just recently. And this fucking dude has like a grill and he's rapping and shit. Yeah, it really is fucking douchey. It comes off worse. Can you imagine what a terrible human being Tommy Vext has to be that I still think they're better off with this motherfucker, whoever the fuck he is? Thank you all so much for your comments. As I said, info@killrockradio.com. And we will get right the fuck back to you. But anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. We will keep this conversation going next time. Until then, I will talk to you crazy motherfuckers later. Peace.
Got any questions or comments? Send them to info@killrockradio.com. To keep up with the latest and catch up on past interviews and clips, search Kill Rock Radio on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to Kill Rock Radio wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm like, oh my God, just listen to it already. Wherever you listen to podcasts.